Welcome to yet another edition of the Phil Taylor Jones Show. Today we're going to still be addressing the ugly stain, the ugly problem, the disgusting problem in this country known as racism. It's ever present, and we're going to be looking at it in a variety of different ways. I'm Phil Taylor Jones, your host, and once again we welcome you to the show, and we welcome you to come along with this or on this journey with us as we explore in depth the nasty business of racism. You know, I was thinking the other day as I was reading through some Black Lives Matter posts and subsequent rebuttal statements, how this is really mushrooming into something that is totally ugly on so many levels. And then I thought, as I was looking at a program on Nova, how far we've come as a civilization in America. We have cars that drive themselves. We have computer chips that are smaller than the head of a pin that distribute billions of terabytes of information that help us in our daily lives. We have smartphones that we can almost interact like people. You know, we can talk to them, they talk to us, they tell us jokes, they give us various important information. They're like personal secretaries, they keep dates for us. It's time for you to go to the doctor at 10 o'clock tomorrow, and you know, things of that sort. So I mean, we've come so far with all of this technology and all this brilliance. But yet, when it comes to the most simplistic of things, black and white people coming together as one, respecting, loving, trusting, and helping each other. You know? We're in the dark ages back there with Fred Flintstone and them, and the Ooga Booga. We might as well be cave people. We can't seem to get it together. Our country is 240 years old. We just celebrated a birthday. And yet, this ugly stain of racism is ever upon us because we don't seem, as a whole, to be able to get together. And it's a terrible thing. It's a hurtful thing. It's a disgusting thing. Now, if you look at some of the attitudes of folks, white folks, it's kind of eye-opening. Now, let's take a look at this Black Lives Matter movement. A lot of white folks don't seem to understand why it even exists or how it came to be. Have they forgotten about the long-existing problem of the mistreatment of black people by their implementation of slavery? Oh, we didn't know where you were. Well, somebody must have told you where we were because you came over there and got us. And while I'm on that subject, sometimes people of color, or at least black folks, are referred to as African American. I find that very disgusting because those bastards in Africa, if they weren't so greedy, grabbing at the little money that the white folk brought over there and the little trinkets and sold their mates down the river into slavery and horrid conditions, we wouldn't be here. So I wouldn't want to be even acquainted with some greedy bastards like that. Scammers, sellouts that sold their mates down the river. So if I'm got to be some kind of an American, I'm a Detroit American. I was born in Michigan, or a Michigan American. Disgusting. God, selling your own people down for a little bit of money or trinkets. I mean, that's disgusting. Anyway, the constant oppression of a people throughout the centuries by white people and their extremists and other types, like the KKK and others. Phil, why are you bringing this up? Well, we need to go back sometimes before we can go forward. You ever see one of those movies where it starts at the very front and then they go back and then they bring you up to where you were? So you can better understand what's going on here. Long existing mistreatment and brutality by police by which the civil rights movement came about. Now, you know, back there, black folks felt like they weren't being treated equal. You got to go to this water fountain. The blacks drink over here, whites drink over here. You can't eat in certain restaurants. Black folks go to the back and get food. Black folks go to the back and get your seat on the bus. If we're all people here and we all bleed red, then why is all of this differentiation? Black people can't vote. Black people can't learn to read or learn mathematics. The only thing black people can do is to sit there and take this oppression and be under the thumb and the pressure of white folks. You know, some people may not like that very much and may want to speak out about it. Although the racial tension eased somewhat after the civil rights movement, it wasn't totally eradicated. And in recent years, there's been a resurgency of this racism in great numbers. Now, why has that happened? Well, let's go back 8 years ago when we elected our new president, one Bersnot insano bastard. Oh, what color was he? Or is he? He appears to be black. So that coined the terminology, our first black president. Well, the racists in this country did not like that at all. Oh no. He broke the sanctity. He broke the iconic institution of the American presidency that up to that point had been held exclusively by the white man. So this black fella is infringing upon white man's territory. They didn't like that. But what could you do? Because there were a lot of folks in the country that did like it. You think about that thing. Even to this day, many of these white folks are racists, act as though that they've done nothing whatsoever to do with the problems that their ancestors created. Out of which many organizations, including Black Lives Matter, have now come into view. Now, how somebody can do that is beyond me, but it happens every day. Because you can read it in the racist comments that are on some of the Black Lives Matter posts in social media. I mean, they're terrible. And the favorite word they like to use is nigger. Not nigga, like black folks use sometimes as a term of endearment to each other, but nigger with an ER on it. Brought up from the old past days of nigra. And, I mean, it could be something innocent, like maybe somebody's talking about fried chicken. Yeah, niggers love fried chicken. You can tell, you can feel the racism in their comment. You can feel the racism in their statement. I remember one time they were talking about the Black Lives Matter people, I think combining with the new Black Panther movement, and they were going to be at the various conventions that are coming up in about a week. Them niggers better not show up down there. We're going to have something for them niggers. Why don't we have the bikies come, the Hells Angels come and put them niggers in their place? Did you have to go there? Yeah, because you're a racist, and that's what you like to do. Sometimes things come out of other things. How many of you out there think that it's fun to be a slave and live that horrid life? Being given little or nothing, but you work from sunup to sundown, maybe 2 hours sleep. And you get up, and among your other duties, maybe your women have to succumb to other midnight duties. And you're treated like nothing. You're given the worst of the worst of the worst. Sometimes people may want to block those kinds of memories from their mind, especially if they are the perpetuators of that, because they find it embarrassing and painful to think about their ancestors being capable of such horrid behavior towards another human being. But you really can't do that. But yet, some of these racist people can look at a Black Lives Matter movement or a protest, and they'll forget all about the atrocities that their ancestors perpetuated on these people that they're still going through today, and you say, well, there's no need for Black Lives movement in this country, that it's a terrorist group. I think not. Although I don't agree with Black Lives Matter in their entirety, I don't agree with their methods of movement. There was an incident where there was a couple of parents trying to get their child to the doctor, to the hospital, and because of a BLM movement on the freeway, they couldn't do that. That's why I can't get behind Black Lives Matter. If you're going to stand in front of a mall or something, that's different. But you don't block hospitals. You don't block thoroughfares so that people cannot have access to emergency services when they need it. I am totally against that. But yet, I'm not totally against the Black Lives philosophy as far as getting the oppression of white people and subsequently white police officers that are constantly killing unarmed black people and in a lot of cases innocent black people. I stand behind that philosophy. Now, when it comes to them killing people, regular white people or police officers, I don't condone that either. Because if one person does something to you, then it is illogical and unfair to throw everybody from that race under the bus, indicative of their career choice. If a white person were to sell a black person a tainted piece of meat unknowingly, and the black person goes home and gets ptomaine poison, then should the black person go and want to kill every butcher or every white person because they gave him some tainted meat? No. Same thing applies with police officers. Now, Black Lives Matter, or at least it should. As I said before, I am not in agreement with them calling for the police officers to be killed or injured or any of that. However, when oppressed and downtrodden people have lost their respect, have lost their trust, have lost their whatever is in their inner core for people that are in power, then what comes out of their mouths sometimes isn't what you want to hear, but it is out of frustration. Now, you might say, now, wait a minute, Phil. I can't agree with that, and that's your right. But let me just say this. You might say, well, if it's black on black murder, then they don't have nothing to say. No Black Lives Matter. That's black people on an even playing field. I'm a regular black person. He's a regular black person. He shoots and kills me, or I shoot and kill him. When we're talking about police officers, we're talking about a different person. We're talking about a custodian of the law, a custodian of protecting citizens that they were either elected to be custodial caregivers of, they signed up for it, whatever, by whichever way they came to be these custodial keepers of the law and order. They have been placed on a higher echelon. They are there to garner the trust, the respect of the people they are there to protect and serve. When you cross that line and you kill needlessly, the bets are off. You don't trust this person anymore. This person that's held in high esteem has now become an angel with a dirty face. Again, not all police officers. I'm looking towards those thugs with a badge, those racists with a badge that go around doing this. Now, if it's done repeatedly, time after time after time, the police administration, the councils that kind of look over the police, as well as the victim's family and other citizens, know that these shootings, all of them, are not good shootings or justified shootings, frustration comes in, anger comes in. When these officers go up before the powers that be for their due process and are constantly getting away with murder, frustration, anger sets in. When it's done time and time and time again, the frustration and the anger builds. What was once a benevolent organization for the displaying of police brutality has now splintered off into more extreme versions of the original. Things like, yeah, we want all police dead, all white cops. We want all white people dead. That begins to rear its head. But then the vast majority of white folks can't sit there and say, well, why is this happening? I don't know, there's terrorists. We didn't do anything. We're just the kindest, most wonderful people in the world. But those are the same ones that'll go and put, yeah, them niggers need to die. But what do you expect? They're niggers. It's just like in the homosexual community. Some of them are in the closet. You know, they may be homosexual and they want their friends or neighbors or parents or whatever to find out. And then there comes a time when they got to come out of the closet. Same with racists. There are a lot of closet racists out there that don't want their family, friends, and whatever to know that they're racist, but they're just as racist as a day is long. When an opportunity presents itself, it comes out. Like I said, a lot of people don't want President O'Bastard in the White House. In a racist terminology, what's that nigger doing in the White House? But since they can't go and kill him, what's the next best alternative? I'll make his people pay. So I'll go get on the police force, knowing how badly I hate them no-tail bears. And the first one puts a toe out of line, I'll kill him. And where did that come from? Well, let's go back in the day when they had what's known as the Jim Crow laws, where, the black people were kept in their place, and there was various laws and doctrines by which to do it. Then you had people like Eugene Bull Connor, who was a safety czar back there in the southern part of the country. And he'd ride around in his big white tank, with his bullhorn. He would keep them niggers in line, and they feared him. Well, that's the way it was back there with the racists and, the Klan and all that. They intimidated and they kept you fearful. And if they told you to come here, boy, and you didn't cower and cringe and whimper under them and ingratiate them, they would get angry and they'd beat you. And sometimes it'd be uncontrollable and they'd beat you to death. That was how they kept those niggers under control. Well, see, today it's not like that. And, you may say something to a black person, and, because a lot of that stuff still happens down there in the South, believe it or not, even here in California, all over the country it happens. Hey, boy, come here. And the black person, what did you say, sucker? Would you like to be eating your shoes? Different black person today. So, these racist white people, they don't like that. They don't like that they've lost control. They want to keep that control. But the average one can't do it. Maybe a group of them will try, but what's the best way to get that kind of reverential fear going? Don a badge and a gun. That's the way they operate, through fear and intimidation. But even with that badge and a gun, it still doesn't work. So when it doesn't work, what happens? I'll kill you. And that's a lot of that stuff going on today. You see, I've noticed another trend about this, especially with Philando and keep wanting to call him Austin.
Alton.
Alton. They're so quick to rush to judgment now after the guys were killed. Oh, Black Lives Matter. Your iconic hero boy was nothing more than a criminal with a laundry list of criminal activity, all the way up to 2009. Okay. No one ever said he was a choir boy. But look at this. We are in 2016, ladies and gentlemen. The guy was at a convenience store. Allegedly asked permission. Could he sell his little CDs outdoors? They gave it to him. A homeless person approached him, probably asking for money. There obviously was not good blood there. Alton raised up his shirt, showed the gun in his gun belt. And because the homeless person did not get what he wanted, which was money, went and dobbed him in to the cops. Now, when the cops arrived, as far as what I'm gathering from news sources, the guy was selling his CD. He wasn't waving a gun. He wasn't threatening anybody. And they hurled him to the floor, put their knees on various parts of their body, did discover the gun, and shot him. Phil, on the other hand, told the officer that he had a permit and was registered to carry a gun. And later found out that the reason he was stopped was not necessarily because of a busted taillight, but because he resembled someone that they were looking for in the neighborhood that committed robbery. But even with that, I say, do you just walk up on somebody, even a suspected robber, as a police officer, and just blow him away? No, get on the ground, spread your legs, and put your hands behind your head? Is that the modus operandi? Just think you know somebody is a criminal and blow them away? Or is it because you're a racist, possibly, and every black person that you happen to cross is a criminal by the mere color of their skin? No, I don't agree with Black Lives Matter's methods, but I can certainly understand their motivation. BLM, not just with police murders, and this is where they fall apart. Black lives should matter in the abortion clinics, because that means that black lives won't be here anymore because they've been killed. No presence. There should be Black Lives Matter attendees at every venue or everything where there is a destruction or deletion of black life. It's just not by police. And that's where it falls apart. I think that this organization is fragmented, too much so, and that's where they lose their focus. Now, I'm sure that there is some kind of maybe a little political motivation somewhere within there, because politics is nasty. It's a filthy business. They're claiming that Soros is part of this Black Lives movement because he's pumping $350 million into it. I think that's a bunch of bull crap, because if he's pumping all of his money into it, where's it going? They're out there in the streets, a ragtag group with signs, and not with any focus, the kind of focus that $315 or $350 million would bring. To me, $350 million would denote airtime, conventions, all this kind of high-level rhetoric that's going on, not the ragtag group that we see clogging up the streets and the freeways in the various communities in our country. So I think that's a bunch of bunk. Whether or not the bitch Hillary Clinton has her hand in it, I don't know. I don't expect anything nice from her or any other politicians for that matter, because they're just that, a bunch of sleazoids. Now, let's talk about this little slogan that's been going around, a cutesy little saying, Blue Lives Matter. Well, I have great trepidation with that, because I've been on this planet for 58 years now, and I have yet to see my first blue person. taking out of mind the Blue Man crew. I'm talking about real blue people. Being a law enforcement officer, however noble, is not a life, it's a career occupied by people. People who wear their uniforms 40, maybe 60 hours per week if they get a little overtime. Out of that blue uniform, and they're majorly blue, they can be any color, but they're majorly blue. Out of that uniform, they're just a citizen like the rest of them. If they're walking into a grocery store in their civvies, if they're walking into an amusement park, if they're walking into an auto parts store, if they're just walking down the street, you cannot look at that person, that's a cop. Because they look just like you. They look like a regular, normal human being. Black people, white people, any other kind of people, are that skin color 24/7, 365. Living, breathing, a target for anybody who wants to take aim at them, no matter their race, creed, or color. The people that occupy those blue suits, yes, their lives matter. And you want to know Phil's opinion on this lives matter? Any human life matters. But can we honestly say that all lives matter? No, we can't. It's just like if you were sitting at a banquet table, beautiful spread, and you say, okay, now all have been fed. And you got 4 or 5 people down and say, no, we don't have any food on our plate. We don't even have a glass of water down here. All people have not been fed because you've got some empty plates down there, which gave rise to this group saying, we have not been fed. So if all lives matter, that would be inclusive of all lives. But if you've got a group saying that their life matters, that would denote that you have made a misstatement. You have made a misstatement by virtue of killing the people in that particular group, the perpetrators of those murders getting away with it constantly, which would mean from day one that you brought them over here as slaves and mistreated them up to where we are now, does not denote that all lives matter. That group of people, their lives don't matter. And you have shown that. You have demonstrated that. You have perpetrated that time and time again. Let's not mix apples and oranges here. The police officers that are really there to do what they say they need to do deserve our utmost and complete respect for the wonderful work they do. And in doing so, taking on great danger to themselves, possibly not going home to their families. Let's not mix that up either. They deserve and warrant our complete respect, utmost respect. But to those thugs with a badge, with these racist mentalities, they don't deserve our respect. They deserve to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, like any other murderer that would do the same thing. And I am unanimous in this. Common judgment and the media, we seem to lose something when we look at telly or when we look at things on the internet or read the periodicals or the newspapers. We all must be aware that the news whores are playing us like instruments. Because they may choose to report one thing and not report the other isn't necessarily by design. They quite often will spin a story to the will of the government or other political interest or their administrators who are telling them to reach for the highest ratings. Got to remember too that most of the news media is owned and operated by white moguls, which makes it too easy to fall in with politicians with the same agenda. Case in point, we had a murder here in, I believe it was Bakersfield, California. Police involved shooting, shot a white person. Didn't say necessarily what nationality the officer was, so that would lead me to believe that the officer was white and the fellow that he shot was white. He had put him under arrest, and the guy was walking towards him, I guess, under the police officer's direction to walk towards me. He had his hands raised. I don't know whether the fellow got an itch or what have you, but he put his hand behind him, and it seemed like he was scratching. And you could see his hand. He had no weapon. At the same time, I guess this was an officer worn camera, and at the same time, somebody was filming with their cell phone. And you could clearly see the guy had his hands up. Even the police chief had some questions and, had some trepidation about whether or not this was a good shooting. The officer fired 5 shots, 4 of which went into the suspect, killed him. Now, here's the problem I have with that. One, let's look at the shooting. While this was a regular patrol officer and not a SWAT team member, even the regular patrol officer has to periodically go to firearm practice, what have you, to certify and prove that he or she can handle this firearm in and with the guidelines of the police department. Now, they have the target, and they have like little numbers and lines and what have you to show that you're shooting in the right place. Now, to me, if the person's walking towards you and you're saying put your hands up, both hands where I can see him, and he goes behind his back and is scratching or what have you, would it be terrible to put a bullet right at his feet and say, I need to see both your hands? If I don't see both your hands, I can promise you, you will not hear the next shot. Okay? Both hands go up there. And if you must shoot, do you have to kill? Now, there's some, situations that will warrant you just taking this person down at all costs. But is a shooting a good shooting when the suspect is filled with double digits of bullets, up to 59, 68 bullets? In most cases, when the perp is running away from you, how threatening can an unarmed person be when he's running away from you? Now, as I said, this was reported on telly. If it had been a black officer killing a white man, I'm pretty sure they would have told that, because these news reporters are as giddy as a schoolgirl or a schoolboy going on their first date when they've got something they want to report. They can't contain themselves. Why? Because shock value and ratings are always at the forefront of a news whore's mind. So we need to keep that in mind when listening to anything they have to say. Get knowledge and full understanding of the situation before you go and start spewing your racist rhetoric. Fear and control. Yeah, back in the day, we already mentioned the Jim Crow and the Eugene Bull Connor. Well, see, they don't like that today because, like I said, they can't keep black people under control. And fear and intimidation were the biggest tools. Setting the dogs on people. Having the fire department come out and blast people, full blast with those water cannons. Now, I don't know if a lot of you understand or realize the pressure that can come out of a water cannon. Say you have a garden hose and you turn that up full blast and you sometimes those things can sting a little. Now, that's just a garden hose. We talked about a water cannon that can pump out 3,600 gallons of water a minute. Maybe a little less, maybe a little more, depending on your equipment. If one of those hits you, like they did many black people back in the South, it can literally take the skin off your flesh. Many cases have been reported where the women were hit with water cannons, ripped their flesh and hair off their body. They had to reach over and pick it up. Nothing but blood dripping down. Sicking the dogs on people. Beating them. We're talking horrid treatment at the hands of white racists back in the day. And a lot of those people still wish this stuff was going on today. Fear and control. They've lost their edge. Pretty much like Al-Qaeda and ISIS, the Ku Klux Klan now recruits by way of computer, internet. They resent the fact that they don't have that control over black folks anymore. Those people still harbor those feelings of hateful racism, and now they're in the need of finding a way to possibly possess that old magic, and they find their way into positions of power, usually law enforcement. And you see the end result of what's been happening time and time and time again. Little Tamir Rice, they're saying it's his fault he got killed. 12-year-old kid, police roll up on this kid, and before the car can stop, they've killed him. They've jumped out and killed him. Oh, we told him to drop the weapon or several times. You didn't have time to tell him anything. The car hadn't even come. The police cruiser hadn't even come to a full stop before this 12-year-old kid is dead. But now we want to try to keep up appearances. Inasmuch as murdered blacks are concerned, the media and people in general will take painstaking effort to dig up as much dirt on the person killed as possible, yet nothing comes to the forefront about the thug with a badge. Sometimes it does. Now, as I said before, Alton, they couldn't wait to chomp at the bit about him being, a former criminal or, just a criminal. What about the officers that killed him? What about their checkered past? Let's look at some of these thugs with a badge that have gone around killing innocent black people like Sandra Bland, like Tamir Rice. What was their record like? Even if the person does have a record, is the police officer squeaky clean? How many agencies has he or she been to before they actually killed for no apparent reason? But that never comes to the forefront. Occasionally it will, but it's something to think about. As I said before, all these cop shootings, they couldn't be clean. They couldn't be good shootings. But yet the powers that be will gloss over that. They go to their places of litigation and the person gets off scot-free. Now, I used to think of this when I think of racism because it's one of the stupidest things you could ever be. I got to thinking, what if the United States were to get rid of every ethnicity there was except for white people? How'd you like that? Okay, white folks, you got it all. It's your country. There is not anything here that is not white. They've gotten rid of all the colorful dogs. Only white dogs here. Everything is white. You know what the saying is, haters gotta hate. What would happen to you guys then? Would you turn on each other? I think you would. Oh, that guy, he doesn't have blue eyes and blonde hair like the Aryan people. He's got freckles and brown. Kill him. He's messing up the purity of the white race. There's another one. He has brown hair and green eyes. Kill him. He's messing up the purity of the white race. Haters gotta hate, right? Look at what's going on. Excuse me, I need to wet my whistle here because this is getting crucial, folks. Let's look at Donald Trump. Now, there have been people that have been talking about this guy, maligning him. He's the worst thing that ever walked on two legs. They'll put up barriers at his rallies. They'll go into his rallies and they'll disrupt. There are fights that break out at his rallies. And the way the guy is just, he can say a certain thing and they'll just totally twist it. And he's hated. He's hated, hated, hated. By whom? Well, okay, the foreigners are going to hate him. This is true because he wants to either ban them from coming to the country or he wants to build a wall and get rid of them. But who are the most vocal people that are out there with hatred speeches and what have you against Donald Trump? White folks. I've seen it. I've heard it. White folks. You guys don't even like each other. A lot of you. You're going against your own kind, your own guy. He's white. And he's rich. And you're hating on him, as they say. Is that the right thing? Hating on? Why is everybody hating on me? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're hating on the guy. He's one of yours. So that proves positive right there that you racist folks, you can't even get along with your own people. You hate the guy. I have to laugh. So if you hate Donald Trump and he's just as white as you are, us poor black folks don't have half a chance. Hating is the true seat of motivation for a racist. And you've proven it time and time again. So what's the end game? If you do something wrong in the kitchen, say you put too much butter in the cake, too much milk, and you shove it in the oven, it's just as watery as it can be, and you shove it in there and it comes out, you give it the allotted time that it is to bake the cake, and you pull it out and it's just as gummy and ugh. You did something wrong. Would you then sit there, oh, I'm never going to buy that brand of cake mix again. They're terrible. They made me mess up the cake. No, you didn't follow the recipe and you screwed it up. Own it. Admit it. And then the next time you buy that cake mix, read the directions. It said 1 1/4 cup of milk, not half a gallon. It said maybe 1/4 of a teaspoon of butter, not the whole pound. You screwed up the cake, not the company. Sometimes we have to go back and look at something we did wrong in order to rectify the problem, to make sure that the present and the future will be brighter. Well, the same thing with white folks or black folks. But I say white folks because we're not the ones that went over somewhere and brought you guys back as slaves. You're the one that went over and brought us back as slaves. So own it. You personally may not have done it, but your ancestors certainly did. We didn't come here by osmosis. We were brought. And you didn't just bring, say, 1 million. You brought a multitude because you brought over healthy specimens that had kids, those that were lucky enough to live. And then those kids had kids, and so on and so on and so on up to where we are now. So as much as you may wish all black folks dead or gone or back to Africa, it ain't happening. So now is the time to, if at all possible, have empathy for that other person. You may not understand or even agree with the Black Lives Matter movement, but if you open your heart, open your mind to understand that usually when people kill people and people that people love and care about, they don't usually just want to say, oh, wow, that was cool. Oh, why didn't you do that before? And let me give you a medal, by the way. Oh, no, I'll give you 2. People are going to be hurt. They're going to be in denial that, oh, how could this possibly happen? And then they're going to get angry. And when a person gets angry, heavens knows how it may manifest itself. So as the great Eric Clapton once penned in a song, before you accuse me, take a look at yourself. These people aren't out there marching in the street and saying what they're saying for no apparent reason. But that's the way white racist people would spin this story. Oh, they're terrorists. They're terrible. They're horrible. Oh my God, they're killing cops. For nothing. For nothing. And countless black people have been murdered. Not just here of late, but for centuries, or at least a century. Black churches burned. People being lynched. People being tarred and feathered. People having stones, 100-pound stones tied to their feet, thrown in the river. People who had dogs sicked on them. People who have had their homes bombed. 4 little girls in a church bombed. People kept from getting jobs because of the color of their skin. People that have not been able to buy homes in nicer neighborhoods because of their skin. And if they bought a home, crosses were burned, swastikas placed on the door. Those people possibly even killed. In a place that I lived in Michigan, or not too far from where I lived in Michigan, called Dearborn, it was nothing but lily white. A doctor who was a white doctor had bought a home up there. But the moving company that he had to move him, they sent 3-4 black guys out there. 2 of the black guys were killed, and the other 2 were beaten profusely because the neighbors thought they were moving in. And you tell me that black lives don't have the right to be angry about losing their loved ones. There are places in California that I can go into, especially at night. I can go there. And you people that watch me, the members, what have you, you know I'm not a thuggish person. I try to put my best foot forward as an intelligent person. A person that has not only gone past the schoolhouse, but stopped in for a while. I will get stopped. I have been stopped. I was stopped because I had a Mercedes. Had made no, infractions upon the law while driving. I had stopped at a stoplight. The light turned green, and I pulled out. Not fast, just pulled out. And I don't know where this cop came from, but all of a sudden, woo, woo! I pulled over. Comes and shines a light in my face. I want to see your license, your registration, your proof of insurance. I complied. And I said, the car is mine. I can assure you of that, because I know that's why you stopped me. I was in Beverly Hills. I had been stopped 3 times prior in Beverly Hills because I was driving a Mercedes. Now, if I went to Watts or Compton or South LA, I could drive all day long. Nobody bothered me. But if I go to Century City, Beverly Hills, Newport Beach, and God forbid Bel Air, I'm going to come away feeling like a cheap watch stopped every 15 minutes. Why? Because this black skin is sitting up in an affluent car. I went to Neiman Marcus to purchase some boots for my grandmother. The security agent followed me everywhere I went. I had on my overalls because at the time I worked for American Airlines. I had on my overalls. And they were clean, they weren't smudged. And I said, why are you following me? Oh, I'm not. I said, yes, you are. And I called for the store's manager. And I told him what was going on. And I laid my credit cards on the table. I laid my $350 on the table that I was going to purchase her grandmother's boots with. I said, I was going to make a purchase at your store, not steal from your store, because I am a valued customer. I have a platinum credit card from your firm. I said, but this guy has been following me around because I guess he thinks all black people like to steal. I work for a living. This logo right here, I work for these people. I said, I'm not going to purchase anything from your store. I am going to report this guy for harassment. Come to find out, there were two white people that came in the store behind me with torn jeans and what have you. And another one of their security agents, not the chief because he was following me, caught them. And I said, well, there you go. The people that you're supposed to be following, your own kind, stealing you blind, and you are up here harassing an innocent person. Racism, its ugly head. It's not fair. It's not right. It's disgusting. It's disgusting to the black people that it's being perpetrated upon. It's disgusting to the kind-hearted, wonderful white people out there who would just turn a nasty face to this garbage. It's an insult to them because a lot of honest-hearted, kind, wonderful, loving white folk are getting accused for what these racists are doing. And that's not fair either. My brother, who I love very much, is white. Sorry, folks, for having this little interruption in the program, but we had a few technical difficulties, a few bugs to take care of, if you will. I was speaking to the effect that, yes, I have many friends. I'm not going to sit there and say, well, I have friends that are white, because that would be really ignorant. I have friends, period. Now, if they happen to be Caucasian, then so be it. They're friends. I think now is the time that we should have empathy for each other, even in adverse conditions. There is a reason by which Black Lives Matter emerged. It wasn't because of total innocence that, oh, I haven't done anything. Why are these people marching like this? Own up to what you did. Have empathy for people. Everybody has somebody that loves them. And when they're murdered and come up missing or what have you, somebody's going to worry. Somebody's going to be saddened by this. Now, some people are lost cause. They are so filled with hate and rage against races or certain groups of people, what have you. They have this inextinguishable fire within them to hate. Those people, sorrowful to say, probably won't ever be reached. But here's what we can do. We can let our light shine. Black people, white people, whatever kind of people. If you're pure of heart and you have love in that heart, you can let that be a light that shines as a beacon to the world and to those who might be teetering on the fence there, whether or not they should hate or become racist. It's easy to let love in your heart. Sorrowful to say, for some, it's just as easy to let in the hate. I hope that we've made some kind of progress here, and I hope that we can continue to fight that bigotry, that racism, that hatred, and come together as a people and help our country, because that's what it's all about. Our country's in trouble, and we need every available citizen to help pull us out. Racism is garbage. Garbage needs to be disposed of. Exec, you got anything?
Oh, very well said as usual. I do have a few things to say. You know, the human mind, the human brain is so extraordinary. It's not funny. You know, the scientists say that the average usage of the human brain is around 40% out of 100. and we haven't even tapped the full potential of what the brain can actually do. Some science fiction films show that you can levitate stuff with your mind, or hear what people are saying in their head, stuff like that, manipulate objects. I'm not too sure about that, although it could be a possibility. Any scientist wouldn't actually deny the possibility of something like that, or they're not a good scientist. But I say that to say this, all the things that the human mind has done, nuclear physicism, being nuclear physicist, quantum mechanics, the space program, the SpaceX program, a non-government funded one. They're even building, or going to build soon, a big long tunnel funded by the same guy that does SpaceX, unless I'm mistaken. It's a frictionless tube. We're trying to go, into the future. All these amazing things that the human mind has done, brain surgery, even. All these wonderful things, but it's quite overshadowed by the most asinine, unintelligent, ignorant, and stupid thing any human mind can ever do, and that's be racist. Hate another type of person just because of their skin color. If aliens came down here and saw how people treat each other, they wouldn't understand it. I'm sure they're highly intelligent enough to understand it, and they'll probably just succumb to the fact that it's just because those people are stupid. But initially, I don't think they would understand it. They would probably be saying to themselves, all these things on this planet, they all look the same. As far as aesthetics, they have 2 legs, 2 arms, a head. Unless someone, was born as a conjoined twin or had some birth defects, all those people look the same, minus different skin colors. We don't understand why they hate each other. It's probably just because they're stupid and not highly intelligent like us, and that's the truth. Not intelligent enough to just hate someone for that reason. It's too much craziness in the world. There's already, bad ran government. There's already poverty. There's already sickness, world hunger. We don't need to add to that with all this hate, and it's just ridiculous. It doesn't make any kind of sense. I think you said something about this earlier. I'm not too sure, but even my own mother turned out to be racist. The first time you came to my house, you came bearing gifts, or a gift and a card. I think it was either Mother's Day or her birthday, around there. So you came in, trying to be nice and do the right thing. And
she's just gotten out of the hospital.
And she's got out of the hospital too. She had a triple bypass heart surgery.
Card.
I get well card. So she had triple bypass heart surgery. So the next time the question came about to have you come in, when I mentioned it, the exact word for word verbatim quote from her was, "I don't want that man in my house." Why? What did he do so wrong?
Wrong paint job.
That's the only thing he did so wrong. I didn't know that happened until she said that, closet racism. She probably would deny it 9 ways a Sunday, but you weren't given any reason, why you couldn't come there, I remember one time she was saying something about, that you didn't even come up to the house or nothing, you just drove away. Well, she saw the car coming, there's a big block, it's a kind of a cul-de-sac, and she saw the car coming and stop in front of the house, and she just turned back away, turned her back to you, and kept doing the little gardening and stuff. So obviously she was the one that turned her back on you. And she later on tells me, why don't any of you can come up here and everything. Well, you don't like what happens, you don't, greet people and stuff, Someone turned my back to me like that. I said, what's the point of even coming up there, It's just, she's racist, and it's a shame that people can even be that way, to think that way. There's too much craziness going on. And with all these different things going on, the KKK didn't invent terrorism, but they sure as hell, perfected it. All these people saying that Black Lives Matter people are terrorists, what they've done comes nowhere close to what ISIS, ISIL, all them funny little names have ever done. But I'll tell you one thing, at least back in the day when this was going on, the slavery and this tarring and lynching, hanging and everything, they sure as hell, that was terrorists right there, to instill fear, to make people terrorized. That's the definition of terrorism, and black people have not even come close to that. One shooting of the cops, no matter how unfortunate, the guy.
Well, there were about 3. I remember 2 were ambushed in New York, and then these here in Texas, and I think there were a couple of others skirmishes between folks that are in the Black Lives Matter movement, or at least wannabes and police officers. So there's about maybe 4 or 5 incidences, but this one was the most violent.
And because of those small numbers, it does not even come close to the definition of terrorism. You know, these people are just insane in the head to go around just because they hate black people. You know, the word, and excuse me for saying this being a white person, the word nigger is used too many times for my taste. I play this online game, and when I'm in a certain realm, as they call it, almost every day I see that word put out there in a negative way. You know, it's never the UH or AH, my nigga, or nothing like that. It's always negative every single time. If you could go in the server logs and look at that server every day, you'd probably at least find it 30 times per day that word said. You know, these people are just so quick to be racist online. I bet you they wouldn't do it in front of someone's face and just call them a nigger to their face and see what happens. They probably get their butt killed or shot or something. You know, you don't.
Well, you got your internet bullies or internet, you know, muscle people.
Yeah, as they say, a fighter with a keyboard or something like that. I forget what, keyboard warrior or something like that. You know, you wouldn't say that to someone's face and expect to come back, you know, in one piece. But, you know, they shouldn't be using that word. It's a very derogatory word, you know. And this nation is just really, you know, in bad shape, you know. And the way that this racism just really sickens me to my very core. This whole nation is very disgusting in that part of the fashion, and disgusting as far as everything else being ran incorrectly, the government and everything. But I mean, just to have all these years pass by, 240 years, and it's still here. Something so ignorant and unintelligent as we both have alluded to, it's mind-boggling, you know. And then in the same way, it's not mind-boggling, because you know how nasty people can be, and to sometimes, and I know this happens, to bring your child up that way and teach them the same teachings, that's even more worse. That's the worst thing you can do, is ruin someone's life and get them to be staunch just like you, to just be a staunch racism and not like black people, you know. It's really crazy. And it brings to mind one thing I saw on the TV show called The Jeffersons. There was an episode where the white guy, there's a big fat white guy, I kind of forgot his name.
Tom Lewis.
Tom, yeah, because they call him Uncle Tom sometimes. Because he likes, you know, he's friends with this Jefferson guy, the black person. And so they had some problems in the apartment building, and this Tom guy wanted to start up a thing to try to get the problems eradicated, the issues they have with the apartment. So he overheard these white guys talking about they were going to have a meeting to try to fix stuff. They didn't specifically get into that they were trying to stop black people from supposedly taking over or being there and everything. It was just said to make it sound like he was having a meeting for the building too. Say, oh, can I meet you in the same place? Yeah, this is what apartment number it's in, and we'll go. Can I bring my friend, Mr. Jefferson? Well, yeah, he likes it. He likes that kind of stuff too. Yeah, we'll bring him. He wants to get everything fixed, but they didn't specifically go into what he was talking about getting fixed. So he comes to the meeting and sees him there. He's like, "What are you doing here?" And basically said all kinds of racist stuff towards him. They didn't want him there and everything. And then it turns out that one of the kids that was the son of the main guy in charge of the KKK meeting that they were having there, he somehow started choking on something, and Mr. Jefferson was the only one, you know, diligent enough to run to the guy and save his life. And this bastard was so racist that he said that you should have let me die rather than save my life. That's how much he hates black people, and that's very strong. And like you said, it's so down deep in your soul that you can't change a person like that. A leopard can't change his stripes. You can spray paint them or paint them, but they'll still have them stripes there. You know, once it washes off from playing in the water or whatever, you know, it's too deep seated in some people, and it's really an ugly stain in this nation and on its people. And Mother Nature would be frowning down upon it. And as we said in one of the other shows, Lady Liberty, I think she's angry and possibly crying about all these racist people, doing racist things and hurting and killing people, the police killing people. It's just too much. So that's all I got to say on the subject.
Good. And thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Black Lives Matter is something that isn't going away. It's going to be here for a while, as long as there are black people that feel that their lives matter, or it should matter, or it could matter. If we as a people can find it in our brains and our hearts to make it so. I mean, we can come up with all these grandiose things, like I mentioned at the onset of the show. But the one thing that's so easy to do, we find so difficult to achieve. And that's to care for each other as people, care for each other as patriots, care for each other as United States citizens. We're the oldest citizens we have in this country other than the American Indian. And we still have a problem with getting ourselves together. Let's try diligently to start anew and get this thing together. Black people aren't so bad. White people aren't so bad. There's some screw-ups in every race. This is true. But as a majority, I think if we really tried hard, we could find a way to help each other to victory. And that's victory in saving and improving our country. So, having said that, take care of yourselves. Let's try to take care of each other. Try to care about each other, love each other, and get rid of the hate and increase the peace. Join us for the next Phil Taylor Jones Show. Bye-bye.